Hello again, another episode today with amazing guest Josh Murray. Josh, many thanks for taking your time coming over today. Josh is an amazing actor, founder of Gym Rats. Josh, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me, Julio.
Thank you for coming. So, Josh, for people who actually don't know you yet, how would you characterize yourself?
How would I characterize myself? Um, I am I'm an actor and a filmmaker, producer. I'm a health enthusiast and an adventurer.
Amazing. You thrive all your career trying to empower people, which it's one of the things I most admire from you. You founded Gym Rats, and you continue thriving, empowering people in all you do. Tell us a bit about that. How all this started for you, and how do you got where you are today?
Yeah, there's a few different threads over the course of my life that tie into this, but in brief, I was into fitness and sports as a young man, as a teenager, and I developed some health issues very early in life that were preventing me from doing that. And while I was still in school, I was getting to a place with chronic pain where I was having to give up kind of all my other pursuits, and that was part of the reason, in addition to some self discovery and personal struggles and
Right.
my own internal journey to feel drawn to the arts, drawn to acting, to film. And I decided to just kind of dip my toe in that as a hobby, and also as an outlet and an escape, because of the other things I was having to give up at the time. Fast forward over a decade, on that journey of also like working on holistically working on my health and reclaiming my physical body, as well as having
Sure.
a lot of years into working on my emotional and mental health, getting resilience and stability, and reclaiming myself, on this journey of healing. I got to the place where I was pursuing acting as a career, as a profession, and also had gotten to the place where I was back into fitness. And
Right.
around that time, I decided to embark on producing my first feature film. Teamed up with my buddy Korsten Vandenberg, who's a writer director, to make a
Yeah.
movie together. He pitched me this idea of Gym Rat, and I felt like it was the right combination of factors to take my first step into producing, and I made that my first feature film, which is now done, and we are working on getting it released this year. Interesting
Congratulations
kind
to
of
that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Last thing I'd say is interesting full circle thing was, as a teenager, I had bought a set of powerlifting weight set,
Yeah.
and for many years it sat in my parents' garage. My dad always used to try to get me to sell it because I couldn't even do push-ups, let alone deadlift,
Right.
and that was always a sore point for me, and I refused to sell them because it was like kind of like a symbol of
Yeah.
my attachment to my vision that I was going to be healthy one day again and be able to be strong, even though for about 10 years I couldn't work out because of the chronic pain issues.
Yeah.
The first opening shot of the Gym Rat movie is me deadlifting like that weight set, that I had as a teenager, in the movie
Amazing.
Gym Rat. Yeah.
Amazing. I really admire that because you are the living proof that nothing is really impossible. Despite all the things that you had in between, despite all the difficulties, despite the situation, you achieve your goal, you thrive, and you got there, right? And this is what I think is compelling for other people also to follow this story, because it's needed. I mean, health, it's needed inside your life. You need mental health, and you need that balance to be balanced also within your daily basis. And then it's not all about work or all about a specific thing. You need to be balanced in all the things you do in a day. Otherwise, you became drained, right? I mean, if you do same thing over and over again, only that thing, it will come a point they also become tired of that. So it's important to vary and to involve mental health and physique in your life. Right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and the story of Jim Rat, which we know we're gonna get into more, but is about a guy who has tremendous determination and drive and dedication to fitness,
Yeah.
but he's lacking that mental, emotional, spiritual awareness,
Right.
and tools, right, and knowledge, understanding to deal with that side of himself, right? So it's strictly a physical pursuit, and for me, even the physical healing aspect of my journey was very tied into the mental and spiritual aspect of the awakening and transformation for me. And so I did, invest as much as I could into that truth and that
Right.
and that the shedding the light on those aspects of reality of life in the movie, because if I for many years I did approach it as a strictly biological problem,
Right.
and I only ever got so far. I never really got to a place of having resiliency, of freedom from pain, of being able to really truly be strong, in my body, until I really started to tap into those other aspects of myself. So I hope to shed light on that with the project as well, like the importance of drive, determination, commitment, refusal to give up, right?
Yeah.
The physical value of training, right, and your health physically, but also those other aspects are even more important and have to be included in the mix. And if you don't, right, it can become a destructive thing, as we see in the movie Jim
Yeah.
Rat.
Yeah. What will be your advice for people that are struggling to try to achieve their objectives according to, you live it on your own skin and you have your knowledge how to overcome it? What will be your advice to people that are seeking, that strength, that mental thriving to achieve their goals? What will be your advice to them?
You know, th- there was it was from when I had to start giving up the things that I love doing to when I was able, for example, fitness, to when I was able to get back to doing those things and to
Right.
be able to be active again and not be in pain, was about a decade-long journey. Okay, so I know what it's like to feel like an eternity of banging your head against the same wall. And there's so many things that I had to learn through that process. But one of the most important things is that you need to have a vision and a belief, right, that change is possible, right? Even when everything is telling you, like, this is who I am, this is my lot in life, this is my fate.
Yeah.
It's just life sucks. All those messaging that starts to accumulate in your head through that experience, you have to have this almost blind faith of, like, I believe that I can change. I believe that change is possible. And that's
Yeah.
number one, that, like, I'm not going to settle for giving up. I'm not going to settle for losing. I'm not going to settle for life has to be this way. That
Yeah.
the whole of this hope that change is possible, because it is. And you can see that. I mean, I hope that my journey is an encouragement to some people, but there's so many people out there who have
Yeah.
overcome all the odds. And that, it's not a fluke. It's not a one-off. It's been shown over and over again that you can be stuck for a long time and still find transformation. So that's number one. The second
Yeah.
thing that is key, though, is that, there's that old saying that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So within that sort of, the dogmatic determination to keep going and not to give up, you also have to have the humility and the flexibility to know that how you're approaching it might be the wrong way. Okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes people go, well, I'm never going to give up. I'm going to do what I do. And that's kind of what Lonnie is doing in the film, is he's like, I'm going to be a champion. I'm going to, overcome, my genetics or whatever. And I'm going to be this. But the track that he's on is broken. It's flawed. And he doesn't see that for a long time. And so I think the other lesson is that if you're not seeing results, it doesn't mean that there isn't an answer. It doesn't mean that the direction or the goal that you have isn't achievable. It might just mean that the way you're approaching it is the wrong way, or maybe that you're missing something that's a key element, a foundation to the solution. So having the hope and determination to overcome, but also the humility and the willingness to learn that maybe you don't have the right approach.
Yeah. We go back to Einstein equation, which is, don't expect doing the same thing over and over again to have a different result, right? I mean, that's the path that you need to see. I mean, if you're not achieving the path, it doesn't mean that what you want to achieve is not wrong. It's just that there's other ways of achieving to get there. It's like getting to a road. Not all roads go to the right place. You just need to find the right road for you. That's how we say. Because one road can be perfect for you, but it can be different for another person. So it goes from person to person. You just need to evaluate which is the right road for you. But there's a root path in there, which is the mental health and the perseverance supposed to be always there during a life journey of a person. And I think that sometimes that is missing. Sometimes the word to a person that wants to thrive and achieve does not come from that way of impact. And it's not causing the actual positive impact it's supposed to cause sometimes to people, right? I mean, you probably know this yourself. I mean, how many people were around you during this decade? They want to achieve something and you never gave up, but what all the advice is correct. That's what we're getting at. So, sometimes you need to evaluate, right?
Yeah. Well, there's certainly people that I've known, or seen over the years who are working towards something, right? And 10 years later, they don't seem to be any closer to achieving that. And some of that can be a lack of consistency and a lack of effort application, right? Maybe you're not giving enough time, effort, and dedication. You're involved, but you're not committed. But some of it can be a lack of willingness to learn. Like you're not taking an input, you're not receiving feedback and adjusting, right? So the lack of adjusting to the results of your effort can also be another limiting factor. And I think that really that really reflects and is really instructive in the issue of community, right? Because if you're a lone wolf, if you're kind of doing it solo, if you're trying to do it on your own, if you're too proud to learn from other people, then that can be another trap where you're like, I'm doing all this effort and I'm working on it, but I'm not allowing other people to speak into my life. I'm not accepting constructive criticism, if you will. So being willing to go hey, I don't know what I don't know. So what are other people saying? What are other people seeing in me? Right. Getting that feedback, because, even if you're on, a keyboard warrior and you're scrolling Instagram or you're researching on YouTube, whatever, until you get coaching, until you get community, until you get accountability, until you get feedback directly on what you're doing, you can get stuck and not even know it, or you can miss things and never become aware of it. So that's another key factor, I think. And so even for myself, sometimes I'll notice hey, I've kind of been isolated in a certain way, or I haven't really gotten outside perspective on what I'm doing in this specific area of my life, and I haven't been seeing results. So I need to expose myself to what might feel like criticism from other people and go, hey, maybe there's something that I'm missing and I could learn from that.
So, I mean, you came to the right point. I mean, it's not about really criticism. It's about what is the best perspective for me to look at. Because in the end, for me, I think that it all becomes experience, right? I mean, we're going to many paths. We never really know what's going to happen really in the future. We can predict part of it, but not all, because it's not possible. But during these paths, we experience a lot of things. We try a lot of things, but we need to try. That's what we're getting at. If you don't try to achieve something, you never get there because you don't know what you need to do to get there. So sometimes you really need to leave it on your own skin to get that achievement thing. Well, I went this far. It's not really my goal, but I take it as experience. I know this is not the right path, so I take a new one because I know that's not the right one. But I experienced to, until I got where I need to go. And I think that first step, some people sometimes are afraid of doing it. And I really admire your career for that because despite all your environment around you, you took that first step no matter what to achieve where you are. You done even on your professional career, you done many different types of role in acting, totally sometimes different from one to the other. I mean, you did action movies, you did family movies, sometimes it's very different acting. So that's a living proof of that. I know. And this is what I'm trying to to explain to other people. It doesn't matter what you do; it's always possible to get where you want to get, but you need to find that right direction, right?
Yeah, well, Julio, you can talk about different semantics about what is criticism, or what is a better word for that
Yeah,
feedback. But
yeah,
I think there's very few things that are as vulnerable as being an actor and getting up and performing, sharing yourself, your
yeah,
humanity, being vulnerable, putting yourself in a state where you're not in control of how you're behaving per se, and then having people give you feedback on whether they think you did a good enough job doing
yeah,
that
yeah,
is one of the most like vulnerable, like uncomfortable things to do. And yet, in order to be better at it, like that's what you have to do. And I think that those lessons that you get from how people are perceiving you, whether it's an acting coach or director or
yeah,
casting director, what have you, is really valuable for being able to learn and grow and develop excellence. But it feels, whatever you want to call it or however it should be phrased, it feels like criticism sometimes. It feels like it's very easy for it to feel like someone is making a negative comment about you,
mhm,
right? That's how it
mhm,
feels. And so
yeah,
you have to be willing to like subject yourself to the fear of that criticism, even if
yeah,
it's not intended to be criticism or that's not the right word for it. Like it feels
yeah,
like criticism. So you have to be willing in any area, but especially something like acting, willing to face that discomfort of like, I
mhm.
don't want people to say like, oh, you're not enough or you're not good or there's a flaw in you in order to
Uh,
grow.
Josh, my
Yeah.
advice is always the same. I mean, criticism or not criticism, I take it always positive. In the end, what I always say is, I did something that you actually didn't do. I exposed myself to try to achieve a goal. What have you done? Right? So, because sometimes for people, it's easier just to point the finger and say, oh, this is bad. This is, hey, we're all human beings. No one's perfect. But the main point of projection is, I'm trying to do something. Of course, from the first take might not be perfect, but I'm getting the idea route to try to impose to have this objective. What have you done to make that perspective? So this is what I always say, because I mean, sometimes talk is cheap, so that's I always say. But for people who take it the effort, of course, we don't see all the angles. I mean, there's several angles. I mean, but in the end, the root thing, it's the action. It's not about sitting on the sofa, expecting something to happen. You do the action. So of course, sometimes you need to take it in several takes, or several segments, or several times. It doesn't really matter what it is, but there's an action there, and this is what I say. Yeah.
Well, and you could say, well, I don't want to get into it, like I said, a conversation about semantics. It's not really that
No,
useful
of
to
course,
me. But
yeah.
the constructive criticism versus useful feedback, or whatever you want to call it, versus people just wanting to bash you, right? That's a completely different thing. But I'm talking about people who genuinely want you to do better, right? And they have a perspective that is valuable, right?
Sure.
Like, even in those situations, like, you need it, you should be getting it, it's going to help you. Like, it can feel painful at the time, because it's like,
Right.
well, I gave it my best, I was vulnerable, I put myself out there, I worked hard, and now you're saying it's not enough. But like, I'm saying it can be tempting to feel like that is criticism. It can be tempting to feel like that's a blow, right? And you have to be, in order to grow, you have to be willing to hear that feedback from people that's like, hey, there's a problem here, you're missing something, this is how you could do it better. And you have to have that mindset of like, oh, thank you, like, you're making me better, not, oh, you're criticizing me. And really, part of it, I think, is being able to do something incredibly personal, or at least intimate, right? Something really intimate and vulnerable, and say, this is an action that I'm doing, and I'm learning how to do this action better, rather than this is who I am that I'm giving you, right? Even though it feels like this is me, that I'm giving you me, right? And you're saying me is not enough, or me is wrong, but you really have to like separate it from like, I am me, and this is something that I'm doing that involves showing a part of me, right? And now you're going to tell me some input that could help me to share who I am better, and to really make it about, this is how I can do the action better, rather than, am I good enough, or am I a failure or not, right? So I think that can be part of like that shift, or that growth, the maturity, to be able to separate your identity from what you do, and to be able to hear, constructive feedback or criticism about how you're doing something, and see, how can I do this better? And and that really kind of also taps into your beliefs, because you could have a perspective about, this is the way to do things, and someone could say, no, that's not true, it's based on a lie, and this is how you need to do it. And most people will not change their belief. They'll say, no, I believe this, you're wrong, you're bad, you're stupid, I hate you, right? Rather than change what they believe. And it's the same exact thing. You have to be able to separate from your perspective of how you think things are, and go, this is not who I am, this is how I think things are. And that is imperfect. And over time, I'm going to evolve and adjust that based on new input. And if someone has something that is really compelling and plausible, I need to be able to go, I'm going to entertain that and evaluate and see, maybe the way that I've been seeing things is wrong. Not I'm wrong, not I'm bad because I misunderstood something, or gained a wrong impression of something, but I am me, and this is how I see things, right? And how I see things might have a flaw that I need to adjust, right? And so that I can be better, right? Not so that I can be wrong.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say better myself. So within your career, I mean, I've been seeing that you were engaging several different types of role. What was most compelling acting that you actually did? Because I mean, you did action, you did family movies, you did kind of comedy also somewhere. What was most compelling for you, or let's say it was a bit more hard for you to do that role?
Yeah, that's a great question. People often want to know, like, well, what was the best thing, or what was your favorite thing? And I'll say, for one thing, like, I feel like part of being an actor is a mentality of like newness, change, exploration, discovery is in and of itself is a big part of the pursuit and the passion. And so I can't say that it extends for me that I want to try everything, but the variety and the newness, the challenge, the adventure of that exploration is a big factor for me. And so it's not necessarily that a role was the thing or was the ultimate thing. Generally speaking, it's the shift in and of itself, in contrast with the other things at that point, is
Right.
the new thing that's fun, so, or exciting, or interesting. So, for example, one of the first things I did in my professional career was Killing Lincoln, and it was a historical period piece, which I love doing. Historical period pieces. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I got to work with some of the most talented, the most accomplished people in the industry, working alongside Eric Jendrenson as like one of my first things out, who did one of the best miniseries of all times, showrunner, creator of Band of Brothers.
Right.
He now just wrote the most recent Mission Impossible movies. Was amazing, like to just be alongside, to see that their skill, their expertise, their insight, their dedication, their attention to detail, just their competence, their confidence in what they were doing, and all the incredible people and teams that they put together for a project like that. It was amazing, right? I'll never forget the experience. And being around that level of excellence and stuff is fantastic, right? And getting to walk in the shoes of someone who lived hundreds of years ago and get to like follow their footsteps and try to experience and see what they were doing, like walking that street centuries ago, is just so riveting to me. I did a film, Christmas at the Greenbrier. Like, there's no shade on it. It's not like my ideal kind of movie. It's not the thing that I aspired to when I got into acting. It's not like the ultimate of like the type of art that I want to create. But I was given the opportunity to do my first Christmas movie, and I'm like, I don't really have a lot of experience watching these movies. I've never done one of these movies. It's very different from the kind of space that I feel like comfortable in. And even though some people would look down on it as like, oh, the Hallmark Christmas movie, that's kind of like whatever, it's blasé. Like for me, it was like, well, this is a challenge, because being in that space feels very foreign to me. Like that kind of genre is not something I'm familiar with. So like this, I see this as a great challenge, even though it might not be looked at as kind of prestigious acting. Like it's a different world that I'm not used to. And so I'm going to take this seriously, as this is a challenge of like, how do I do that like happy-go-lucky world and also still find some like truth and some groundedness and some heart in it that has some depth that's really important to me as well. So I looked at that as like, this is a really great challenge and an interesting pursuit. So I still enjoy the variety and the newness of that challenge, and I still find that like enthusiasm for that.
Amazing, really amazing. I mean, congratulations for all this and all the movies that you are acting and performing. I'll say that it all take you to a better version of yourself and a better actor, because more you do, better you perform, in the future. So I guess it also comes with the experience.
Yeah,
so,
and
what's a bit about more?
like finally on that, like I just shot a vertical, which has like the least amount of time, the least amount of preparation, the least amount of like resources and script, like as well. The writer has the least amount of time to like make a good script. Like it's so thrown together. And I just did one, and it's like, well, you can look at it as like, oh, I'm not going to take this seriously because it's kind of whatever, and it's like lowbrow, it's not good quality. And for me, I'm like, this is a challenge of like, hey, we have very limited resources, very limited time. Like, how good can I be when I don't have the safety blanket of I have this amazing script and I have a month to get ready and study my lines, prepare? Like, if I'm just thrown into something, like, what can I discover there? How much can I commit when I don't have the comfort of things the way I would like them to be? Like, what can I do then? Again, it's another challenge.
So within this, I just saw your latest update on Jim Rats. Apparently, Lou Ferrigno comes into your movie also, right? Tell us a bit about this part.
Yeah, so the original script for those who aren't familiar, Gym Rat is a feature film about a fitness freak who's obsessed with becoming Mr. Olympia, but is delusional, is in denial, and is dealing with steroid abuse and mental health issues. And it's a project that I started 7 years earlier with my partner Korsten Vandiver, who produced with me. And the original script, the guy is obsessed with Lou Ferrigno. That's Lou Ferrigno is his idol. That's who the poster he has on his wall. He has grown up watching The Incredible Hulk and looking at his Mr. Olympia photos and stuff. So that was always the essence of the character and the story. Is like that's his idol. That's his role model. But it took us many years to finish the film. We had a lot of setbacks. We went through COVID. We had a lot of delays. So the project ended up kind of evolving a lot over time. And as we got later into the production, because it happened over several different phases, we kind of came around to this idea, but what if Lou was in the movie himself? Like, what if he actually appears in the film? And so we ended up rewriting the script to have a whole storyline that involves Lou himself, not just him as a distant hero, but a more of a real actual character in the film that the protagonist interacts with. So funnily enough, after all the years and back and forth and different things, Lou ended up at my management company, at the management company that represents me, that is to say, and he ended up deciding to come on board and agreeing to do the film. He liked the script. He liked the project. It is a bit of a love letter to his legacy, and came on board. So the final phase of filming was shooting a arc for Lou Ferrigno himself as his character. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't know what to expect. I'd never met Lou. I'd worked with his son on a previous project, but I hadn't met him or seen him even do anything recently when he got involved with the project. And so I really didn't know what to expect. But he exceeded all my expectations. And he was just passionate, dedicated, committed, came in wanting to make it the best it could be, loved what we were doing, really saw what we were doing. He brought just energy and humor and fun and heart to the process, and was just a class act to work with. I'm excited to get it out there. I love that he came to our cast and crew screening, and he really loved the film. So I was really pleased that he was happy with what we did as well.
Amazing. That's amazing achievement. Is it out already, Josh? Or when is it going to be out?
So we had our Los Angeles festival premiere just recently at the Beverly Hills Film Festival. And we are in the process of securing distribution, and we're aiming for an October release. Okay. So expecting for the film to come out this fall, but there's a lot of months of work that has to go into getting distribution and marketing and the release date secured and all of that. So that's what I'm going to be doing the next few months. But as soon as we have our release date secured, we'll be announcing that. But we're aiming for the fall.
Can you mention which platform is going to be, or you cannot say?
I can. I don't know. I can't say until it's confirmed. But it will be, available in the U.S. first, domestically on possibly some theaters, definitely major streaming platforms, cable television, television on demand. At first, and then eventually they'll filter out to other platforms over time, and then we will also be working on the international release, and definitely expecting to get it to the UK and Australia, and I think probably places like Germany. It'll do well in as well.
Amazing. So I really wish you all the best with this. It's really a big work from a lot of people, especially you and all your team. I send you all my congratulations to all the amazing work you guys did in this. I think it's an amazing story, and it's compelling. I mean, I think we'll thrive and we'll have a lot of success, especially for people actually looking for to have that mentally impulse. Let's just say. I think if you watch this movie, you definitely be connected to it. Let's just say. I would say so.
Well,
So, Josh, about talking a bit about Jim Rats, but also another acting that you also been doing. What else you planning? What are your goals to achieve within the next, let's say, couple of years, 3 years time? You used to continue to doing the same. You are expecting to doing some framework outside what you're actually doing. Tell us a bit about that.
yeah, well, I am involved. I'm attached as an actor and producer as well in some cases to a handful of other projects that are in development. I can't talk too in depth about all of those because
Right.
they're in various stages of process.
Okay.
I am connected to another project that's actually set entirely in prison and deals with really about incarceration and recidivism rehabilitation, like as its primary storyline. There's a lot of projects like that. Based on that one's based on a true story that I'm excited about seeing come to fruition. But this year, my focus is going to continue to be Jim Rat through getting it released, and then even when it's released, there's a lot of work that I want to do with promoting the film, and also what the film can, the conversations the film can engender. I'm working with the Taylor Hooten Foundation as well as Testosteronology about some of the issues that the film raises, right? I mentioned to you, Julio, that we dedicated Jim Rat to two gentlemen in the bodybuilding world that unfortunately passed away due to mental health
I'm
issues,
very sorry about that.
addiction, and suicide. And
Yeah.
I've also really become more aware about the epidemic with the youth. There are millions of teenagers who are abusing steroids illicitly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of looks maxing and social media and image control and like
Yeah.
wanting to be good enough. And so I want I'm making more films, I'm acting and stuff, but when you spend so much time, when I spend so much time working on a project like this that has something to say and is based on really real issues like this that are so important, like I don't want to miss those moments. And so I'm being so invested in this as a producer as well as an actor. This next year, I'm expecting to be involved with educational programs and events and awareness around some of these issues, and both the physical as well as the mental health issues is something that's I'm really passionate about, and I want it to be a platform. I want it to be more than just entertainment. I want it to be entertainment. I want it to be fun and captivating, but I also want it to make you think. And I think the best films, they're entertaining in the sense that they give you an escape, they give you an experience, they give you an adventure that you're on in your imagination, but they also leave you with something more than just an escape. They leave you with things to think about and things that kind of open your mind. And so I don't think that the film fixes people, but I think that it gets people thinking about things that could fix them.
Different mindset. Yeah.
So that's one thing. I also, expect to continue to be involved as a producer as well as acting more and more in the future. My dad and I have written some scripts that are more ambitious that I intend to produce one day. Yeah,
Your dad wrote the script too. Amazing.
Yeah. So I wrote. He was writing long before I was born, even writing screenplays. And we collaborated on an action adventure film that I'm going to make one day. I was just watching some behind the scenes of kind of documenting about Master and Commander just this week.
Yeah.
which was cool to see that resurgence of people's interest. It was one of my favorite movies, and I would like to make another Master and Commander feat in the future one
Tell
day.
me when. I'll be the first one to watch it for sure.
There you go. So I love period films, but that Age of Sail, Age of Exploration on the high seas is really my ultimate fascination, and so I want to make a movie in that vein one day as well.
Adventure, right? To get to points that were never achieved.
Never achieved.
What is on the other side, right?
What is on the other side? Yeah, of the unknown, and also just the beautiful. There's just a beautiful romanticism about, of course, going to sea back then was incredibly dangerous and hard and painful thing, but there was also beauty in the connection to nature and riding the elements. I mean, you're thrown into, especially back then, the most powerful elements of nature, and having to find harmony with that in order to get to that destination. And of course, it was incredibly hard and dangerous and difficult, but also there was just a beauty of riding the wind and the ocean that I think is just timeless, and it'll never go out of style.
Amazing. So going back a little bit, we talked about media is impulsing people not really on the proper direction. We are trying to making characterization or talking comments or making whatever it is on sites, but I personally think that media should be more reserved sometimes and be more realistic. I mean, I don't think a person, for example, as you all mentioned, doing bodybuilding, it's possible to do without steroids. I mean, why you should use them, So I think it's something that should be just as a thought, somehow differently, or the way media presses people to get more image out of them. I think there's different ways of doing it, right? I mean, there's no need really to go that far or push all those boundaries or borders for a person almost not becoming even human, right? I mean, that's at least my as a perspective of opinion and ex-bodybuilder. I mean, that's my opinion regarding this. And I think it can change, right?
Well, I mean, look, even within the world of like Mr. Olympia professional bodybuilding, which is enhanced necessarily. There you can do natural bodybuilding. There are natural bodybuilding competitions, and I could talk for an hour about like that whole topic. But even within the world of using exogenous hormones, if you will, there's people like Lou Ferrigno who lived in that world and played at a world-class level, right? And now at 73, he is still going strong, working hard, sharp, clear, energetic, healthy, and a great example, right, of longevity, right? And there's people who are dropping dead at 30 because of steroid abuse, right? So, like, even within the world of like using exogenous hormones, there's a huge range, right, of like responsibility and recklessness. So, if there's a message of the film with Jim Rat, what I've really talked about Dr. Thomas O'Connor, who is featured in our credits in the movie, talking about this issue. It's really harm reduction, in the sense that like we're not here to dictate or to try to moralize people like this is the way to do it or this is the black and white answer, but like there are better ways and there are worse ways. I think there are best ways, certainly, but there are better ways and worse ways about going about anything. And people have to first start with getting their head right so they can approach how they deal, just with their body better. And it's not always a one size fits all solution. But there are certainly worse directions you can go in and better. And part of that starts with having a better perspective on things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's needed. I mean, people should think in common sense, saying, okay, so there's this perspective. Check it yourself and see if it's better or worse. So in the end, you just need to thrive in that direction, saying that there's not only one direction, there's several. It all goes along which way you choose. You just need to choose right and think about yourself also in the future, right? Because more healthy you do, for sure, more healthier your body will be in the future also.
Yeah. And I think too, man, the essence of good filmmaking is that you're reflecting the truth of the world back to people and
Yeah,
all of its
yeah,
complexity. And the more excellent and the more accomplished or well done a film is, the more it's going to reflect that complexity of truth and of reality,
yeah,
and rather than just simply boiling it down to a or B, or black and white. And if you reflect that complexity of life towards people, it gives people the chance to think
yeah,
about stuff in a more enlightened, a more informed way, and be able to entertain it, because it's not reductionist. Because when it is reductionist, like, then it can be off-putting, right? It doesn't feel real. It's not true, because life is
yeah,
more complex than that. But I think when you can capture even just an element of the nuance, the reality, the complexity of life, in a specific frame, a specific light, and just let people see that, it gives you the chance to think about stuff more deeply, or even to think about it at all, maybe when you haven't really given it a thought,
yeah,
when it's projected up there and reflected on you. And I've been encouraged to see, people even in this industry, in this world, who've seen the film already, say, like, yeah, I saw myself in that world, or I saw an aspect of my experience in the movie
yeah,
reflected, and it caused me to think about my experience. It caused me to think about my life in a
yeah.
new light. It caused me to reflect about my story and my journey, and to explore that, and to kind of extrapolate out, like, where does that leave me, or where does that lead me? And that's the ultimate goal, for
Absolutely,
me as a movie maker.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like how people would imagine themselves having these types of experience, because I mean, there's millions of bodybuilders around the world. And I think that will give him that truth reflection that sometimes a person needs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And was it? I mean, going back, when you actually, you passed this for yourself, your life, you tried gym rats exactly to expose, that positive impact to people. When you started all this, of course, you might have barriers. How was that for you? To become what it is today. Already done movie and soon will be publishing.
I didn't quite catch that last bit. Can you say that again? The
Sure,
publishing?
sure. So, well, I mean, for sure, Jim Rats had a lot of stages, right? I mean, there was the
Mhm.
build up, the filming, the acting, and then the general reaction idea. What was the root cause of the movie to give that positive impact to people, to create that reflection. So, of course, within this, there was a lot of barriers, So, as always are.
Yeah.
How do you thrive, or how do you overcame, all these
Um,
barriers to get where it came today?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, there was a lot of different ways that I had to overcome, because there was many different types of barriers, obstacles. I mean, it was around the whole gamut, interpersonal
Right.
stuff, and finances, and COVID, and legal restrictions, and on and on and on. But I think it all boils down to uh, having a strong sense of purpose. Right? I'm not doing this because, like, oh, I thought it would be fun, or it's a good
Yeah,
idea, or like,
yeah,
hey, this could be cool to do. Like, have a strong sense of purpose, like,
yeah,
and that purpose is more than just one isolated thing. Like, there's there's a vision of like where I'm headed overall, like both as a filmmaker, as a person, right? Obligations to people, the impact to the audience, all this stuff, what this film is ultimately going to lead to.
Yeah.
That is the purpose behind it. And so that is anchoring me ultimately, is like, I've done health coaching for years, and that's something I always talk about, is like, if you have a goal with your body, like, I want to change my body this way, like, it needs to be more than just, I think I should, or, my wife says I should lose some weight. Like you need to have a purpose that's really weighty and important, that's anchoring you to that destination.
Yeah.
And so when all that resistance and obstacles hits you, you go, okay, that's hard, that's tough, that's nice, that's interesting, but this is more important, right? This is a bigger deal, right? You know what I mean? Like, this is going to require 10 times more work than I ever imagined it was going to be. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. My purpose is more important than that suffering and sacrifice and pain. So the purpose is the biggest thing, that the through line is like, okay, like someone says it can't be done, we need to give up, like it's end of story, it's over. Cool, that's nice. My purpose is more important than your belief that this is impossible. I'm going to keep moving forward anyways. So the purpose is the biggest thing of all, and that determination that, like, the other inputs, however loud they are not going to be louder than how committed I am to this destination. And not just because of the destination, I don't want to give up, or I don't want to lose, I don't want to fail, but because this destination has a value. That's what the purpose is the value of that destination is much greater than whatever obstacle you can throw in my path. And then from there, it just becomes the question. You change the question, really, with that purpose equation. That purpose equation is changing the question from not can I do this, or is this too hard, or is this too costly? Right? The question is, how do I do it? Because the purpose is already more important than the obstacle. Right. Yeah. So it changes the question to, so you say it's impossible. So how do we do this impossible thing? Not like, is this impossibility too overwhelming or intimidating or painful or costly, right, for me to do this? My purpose is too big for me to have any question other than, how do I overcome this obstacle?
Absolutely. It's when you thrive to the objective, saying, listen, it doesn't matter what you tell me, this will be done. This will be done because, the purpose of this is actually impulse people. I know what this is. I mean, the idea itself is much bigger than the actual just the movie name. This is much more of it. So
and by the way, Julio, like, I always, part of my purpose was thinking about the audience, and like thinking about our shareholders, right? And like going like, I don't want to let those people down. I want to deliver something to them. However, there is no guarantees, right? Like, I could spend the rest of my life working on this. There's no guarantees that, even if I finish the movie, that anyone's going to watch it. And lots of people said that was not going to make any money. No one's going to watch it, right? I had all that negative feedback, and there's no guarantees that I would ever be able to accomplish that, right? That I would ever make an impact on people, or that it would ever be financially viable, right? But I know that it couldn't unless the movie was done, right? Yeah. That was a prerequisite. And so I know that it's within my power to finish the movie. And so that's what I'm responsible for. Okay. So I'm responsible to finish what I started, and that purpose cannot ever be achieved. I know that for a fact that no one can watch the movie if it's not done. Right? Of course. So my purpose prerequisite is finishing, and I can't reach my purpose unless I finish. So, not everything is within your control. Okay. I'm not saying that not everything is within your control. However, the things that are in your control are your responsibility. Yeah. You have to take responsibility in order to ever have a chance of that purpose happening. And I will say that because I refuse to accept failure, I refuse to accept giving up in my responsibility, people have watched the movie. People have paid to see the movie. People have been impacted by the movie already, and it's not even been released.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I do advise everyone to watch it. For sure, you get a different mindset and impulse about the reality of things, or how you actually think they could be, right? because it does show you that, listen, you live in a reality that it's this, but you haven't seen the other side. You haven't seen more things. You haven't seen what is on the other barrier. So I think this shows, especially the audience, the true reality of what you haven't seen yet and what is possible to achieve in a positive way and in a way that you should do it. You're not saying that do it. No, I'm saying that there is a possibility. Check it yourself, and then you come to me if you say if it's wrong or not. I would say it's good, and I advise everyone to watch it because that gives really something that more people should be into and give this positive image to people, right? I mean, it's not about what social media says. For example, social media says that you need to have whatever, or you need to put some special creams, and everyone start putting as a trend. It's like, come on, what is the reality? There's much more to it. There's so much more that people can put from themselves, even if it isn't for society, but at least for themselves. And I think that will get them to achieve that perspective, right? And I think that was the main purpose of the idea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I appreciate your passion for it and your deep thinking about it, Julio.
Yeah, no, for sure, because I mean, more of this is needed around there. I've lived in gyms. I lived in executive level. I've been around. I've been in many countries. I've seen a lot of things. So it gets me to a perspective, right? There's a perspective where people sometimes don't have it because they're paying too much attention for they should. Let's just be honest. What is the actual reality that is posted on social media in these days? What does it take you, or where does it will take you if you pay 90% of your attention to it? So that's the other perspective. That there's the reality perspective that people should take care about. Most of it, take care about how your children actually spending their time, because that's the most important. I'm saying in a charismatic way because it's really important, and I think this is lacking behind. People are not really paying attention because of their lifestyle, because of the work, because of routine, and sometimes people miss the most important thing, which is what are my kids doing or what they should be doing. Is it healthy
Yeah,
what they're doing? So, and I
yeah.
think even for them, this will give them the true reality, what they should think about, even for them in the future, right?
hmm Yeah, yeah. Well, like being aware of something is like it's the age old thing of like you can't fix a problem until you're aware of the problem. So
Yeah.
like giving your attention to something to like see it for what it is so important as a prerequisite, right? But also like what you spend the majority of your time on, like is such an influence on who you become. So like the inputs that you're surrounding yourself with like are also really important, in that respect of like what am I surrounding myself, what am I constantly putting as my input, right? Because that has such a huge influence on what you're doing, what you're seeing. And so like even within social media, like the people that you're following, the people that you're engaging with, like the lifestyle that they're living, what they're doing, right, is going to have so much impact on like what you do, right? And there's a difference between even too like performing and faking and showing off versus like
Absolutely. Yeah.
leading, right? Leading and giving, being exemplary, right?
Yeah.
In your behavior, like doing things that are designed to, like you can, and it's, I mean, it can be something to be a gray area, like it's something hard to like to know, but like
Yeah.
you can do stuff that's designed to like show off, get attention, or to like glorify yourself, or you can be
Yeah.
doing the same kind of impressive things that are designed to encourage and inspire people like to be better, right? And then you can also you can even view those things, like you can view something as something to feel inadequate and inferior and jealous or envious of, rather, or you can look at it as something as like inspiration of like what is possible or what you can achieve, you know. So even like the way that you share something, and also the way that you view something, the perspective that you view something through, could be healthier or dysfunctional.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But again, awareness. If you're aware, if you're giving your attention to like, hey, I realize I'm looking at this person and I'm thinking, oh, I suck in comparison to them, versus like, oh, this person used to be where I am and they achieved this, so I can too, right?
Exactly.
So even if you have the awareness of how you're consuming material, and seeing like what's wrong or broken about the way that you're viewing the material, that can change how it's influencing you, right? So again, going back to awareness of yourself and how you're doing things is so powerful, and that's a big part of mental health.
And I think that will give a positive remark of who you are really, because people see you as a natural person, you know, a person that gives all his effort to help other people. Really, I mean, this situation really talks a lot about you, because there's this reality. I mean, we all know that if you go into a gym, everyone's starting to have ego. Hey, it takes years to develop a body if you're doing it naturally, of course. You're not going to go from point A to point B in 1 year. It takes several years, and this is what people need to understand. It's evolution. It's not about just going to ego. No, if that guy lifts up 30 kilos, I need to lift up 40, even if you have been in a gym your whole life. It doesn't work like that. And I think this perspective is missing out, especially for professional athletes, because in the end, they're doing for themselves. I mean, they should also look for the way around, because in the end, it's also about the future of a sport. It's not about how you think a sport should be. I mean, there's also other ways and other visions how people can look this into this sport, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, in the next generation, you always think about. But the more you've done, the more you want to think about the next generation. I have a 2-year-old son now, and so now I'm a dad.
Right.
Now,
congratulations.
Thank you. Even more so, like thinking about like, well, you know, what am I leaving for him, and what am I teaching him, you know, and how has my example affecting him?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Josh, amazing. We've been talking for 1 hour and I didn't even notice. I mean, it was really enjoyable conversation. I really enjoyed it. I think it's something for people just to take a look at. It's, you know, one of the most amazing perspectives that I always admire. I wish you all the best for you and your team and Gym Rats. Whenever it's out, I really advise everyone to watch it. You know, take a look at it, have a different perspective. It's all about common sense and see what's out there. You know, be open. It's not about being in a box. Sometimes you get out of the box and check out other perspectives and other way of doing things. And I really admire that. Josh, before we finish, I always say to my guests to say a power message.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your power message today?
I probably go back to what we were discussing earlier about overcoming obstacles, and that is whatever you're facing in your life, whatever you're dissatisfied with, whatever you're stuck in, whatever battle you've been facing, like the most important thing I think is to start with having within that clear vision of what is it that you really want and why you want it, to go a deeper level on what is that purpose? What is your purpose for doing this? And if you really know that purpose should even be bigger than yourself, bigger than proving yourself, bigger than like getting some satisfaction or enjoyment. But even how is it going to affect other people? How is it going to help the world? How is it going to help the next generation? You know, how is maybe even you overcoming this going to not only give you, like, you the life that you want, but like inspire or encourage or help other people to get the life that they want, right? Then it becomes about giving, right, rather than just achieving. And then there's other people who are, you so to speak, invested in what you're doing, right? There's other people's lives who are on the line, right? And that goes into love, right? Because when it's about more than just yourself, then you're loving other people, and there's nothing more powerful than love. So if you can have love involved in your purpose, then you will truly be unstoppable.
Yeah, there was a lot of points I'd like to resume from our conversation. Humility, the purpose of your life, what is your way, and how you think you actually make it with the actual purpose above all. So, I mean, I think it's the four directions that any human being should have all his life. And I think that's my recommendation. And to end the conversation today, I think that's the perspective everyone should have. Josh Murray, the one was with us today. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation. I really enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure a lot of people will enjoy it too. Thank you so much for your work. Thank you for what you're doing and empowering people. Josh, thanks very much for having us today.
Thanks for having me. It was a great conversing with you, Julio. Check out Jim Rat Movie and follow us on Instagram. We'll let you know when it's coming out. And looking forward to sharing that with everyone. Thank you.
Don't forget, tune in and check it out. Thank you all for watching.